Ranjan, it's my pleasure to briefly introduce you to read out the CD. So, Dr. Prabhat Ranjan, and please correct me if I...
No, perfect.
On names and places.
This my name means in Hindi. Prabhat means morning.
Ah, okay.
And Ranjan means one who colors. That means one who colors the morning, that is sun. So that meaning. Please.
Okay, so Dr. Prabhat Ranjan has taken over as Executive Director of TIFAC, effective from April 25th, 2013. Dr. Ranjan's schooling was in Metahat School, located near Ranchi, followed by graduation at IIT Kharagpur and masters from Delhi University. Subsequently, he received his PhD degree from University of California, Berkeley, based on his research related to nuclear fusion at Lawrence Berkeley Laboratory during 1983 to 86. He was a recipient of National Science Talent Search Award in 1976. Immediately after his doctorate, he returned to India to participate in the nuclear fusion program of the country that was nascent then. He continued his research at Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics, Calcutta, and Institute for Plasma Research, IPR, Gandhinagar, making a major contribution to this area by bringing tokamaks, experimental nuclear fusion reactors, I guess we are going to explain what that is, to international standards of operation. He was project leader of Aditya Tokamak and SST-1 Tokamak operation and control group till 2002. From 2002 to 2013, he served as a professor at Yobai Ambani Institute of Information and Communication Technology, Gandhinagar. During this period, he worked on many real-life problems, including societal issues. In particular, his work in the development of environment control system based on body part movement, voice, and brain waves has helped improve the quality of life of many persons with disability. He is passionate about quality of life of many persons. Passionate about application of embedded systems and sensor network technology to the areas of wildlife research, planetary exploration, and healthcare. His work has won him many accolades, including HP Innovate 2009 Award, NCP EDP Emphasis Universal Design Award in 2012, and Bihar Gawa Saman 2012.
Thank you. Let me first explain the tokamak part, the nuclear fusion program. Germany is doing wonderful work. So basically, the nuclear fusion, we are trying to bring sun to earth by using the same reaction that produces energy in the sun. We do that in earth. And Germany has been good work, and I'll talk about it shortly. India has been involved with the nuclear fusion program since the last 30 years or so, and I was part of that almost from the beginning. There is a joint project, international project called ITER in south of France, where Europe, US, Russia, India, China, and seven Japan are all participating in that. India is equal partner to that. But why I mention Germany? Because there was a particular concept of a similar device called accelerators. It was first device that was gaining currency, and then this tokamak came. Tokamak is a Russian abbreviation of toroidal chamber. That started to show very good results. So then in 70s and 80s, it started to pick up, and the accelerator concept was left behind. Although it was conceptual, it was very good, but engineering-wise, it was very difficult. It had a configuration that was very complex. But recently, after 21 years of effort, Germany started a few months back one of the accelerators, which is giving very good results. And that was because of technological advancements in making very precise engineering design, which is not possible earlier, but because it wants to that. So, and that can change the game completely. So the work we're doing in tokamak, right now, is the mainstream. If we go by that, the use of nuclear fusion as commercial one may be delayed till about 2060. another 40, 45 years. But maybe with this newer technologies, we may be able to advance it earlier to something like 2045, 2040. That can solve the energy problem. So I just mentioned this because you mentioned, but let me come back to my main talk. The talk is about a document that we're going to copy, this India's Technology Vision 2035. And TIFAC Bio-Nixon, the full form, you read it out, is Technology Information Forecasting and Assessment Council. Basically, it's a technology think tank for India. Looks at technology that is going to change on the scale of 15, 20 years, 30 years. We're not worried about day-to-day activities. And we brought out a document called Technology Vision 2020 that was done in 1996. At that time, our chairman was Dr. Kalam, who became President of India. Dr. Kalam was our chairman from 1993 to 2001. Then 2002, he became President of India. Right now, our chairman is Dr. Anil Kapotkar. He was famous atomic energy person. He was also chairman of Atomic Energy Commission of India. This document was released by Prime Minister about 1 year back on January 3, 2016. And Prime Minister has also written a foreword in the document. When we were preparing this document, the first question came to us that the work we had done in 1996, we sort of set an agenda for India for the next 20 years. Where do we stand today with respect to that document? So you'll see that when we start the document, we have infographics there. Infographics compare India's progress with respect to that document, and we have divided various sectors that we had worked in 4 groups. It is compared to horse's gait. So galloping India, where India has done better than expected. Cantering India, where India has done along the line of expectation. Trotting India, where India has done slightly poor, and walking India, where India has done very poor. I'll just take a couple of examples to show that. Now, being very frank about it here, there's no point playing hide and seek in these things. Galloping India part, there are 3 in the middle here, which are the strategic sectors, the space, atomic energy, and missile technology, where India has done much better than we expected at that time. But these are all targeted projects where specific goals were identified, like you have to go to moon, we knew that this is the target. If I look at another sector here, this is the life sciences, not very clear here, life sciences and biotechnology sector where India has done wonderful. A lot of generic drugs all around the world are supplied from India. The one on the top is information and communication technology area where we have done, of course, very good, but partly because of global technological changes that happened. India gained from that and India contributed to that. On the software side, we did quite well, but when it comes to hardware side, we have done poor. If I look at the last one, the bottom one here is the waterways, where we had visualized at that time that 8 to 9% percentage of passenger and goods traffic will happen through waterways. But really nothing was done for almost 18 years. Only last couple of years with the new government in place, waterways has picked up momentum, and we are likely to see much better use of waterways than we have done in the past. There is another one here, the advanced sensors area, where we have not really done much even now. We use sensors that we import from various places. The rest of the one that is still very poor is the healthcare. Where we are very still poor, for example, if I compare with Sri Lanka, we are much poor compared to Sri Lanka. Of course, one of the states in the south of India, Kerala, their infant mortality rate is as good as any country in the world, for example, US and Germany and so on. But rest of the country doesn't seem. So this area is of serious concern to us. When we prepared this document, the focus of the document changed from the previous document to this document. The earlier document focused on developing India. But this time, we are not talking about country, we are talking citizens. So India versus Indians. So we focus on the quality of life of each citizen. Because you can make a country called developed, you can have GDP go 10 times, but poor can remain poor or even become poor and rich can become richer. And so this our focus was on developing Indians rather than India, and that's the change that we have brought in. It's a major change in the thought process. And due to this, we don't talk about India, we talk about Indians and their quality of life. And 2 things we say that we are certain that India will continue to be very large and India will continue to be very diverse. And diversity is our strength. If you go around India, you'll find that whether it's language, whether it's food, whether it's culture, whether it's dress, whether it's religion, you will find complete diversity within the country. It's all of Europe put together in one country. Each of our state has its own language, a large number of them, of course, some share the same language. So diversity is going to be there, and we believe that diversity is our strength, not our weakness. We have divided Indians into 6 groups. What we visualize from now, I'm not going to discuss this, but for example, if you take alternative lifestyle, these percentages, of course, if you add up, it will be more than 100%, but that's because it's a non-exclusive population segment. A person can fall into more than one group. If I look at alternative lifestyle, we have had tradition of accepting people who are willing to give up normal ways of society, going to forest, meditate, and they have done wonderful. A lot of our sages have come from that. A lot of our work in the past has been done through these people. So it's part of our society. But there will be other groups of people who will come into this category. There's a group here which is globalized diaspora. This is going to be a very large group. We already Indians have gone all over the world. And even the people who are not residing abroad, the ones who are traveling back and forth, they are globally connected. What we have done is that we've looked at each of these and looked at 3 aspects of their life. The 3 aspects of their life in terms of security, prosperity, and identity. Security, prosperity, identity. Security, all of these terms are broader terms. Security, not terms of physical security, but all aspects of food security, the culture security, all this comes in together. Looked at 3 aspects: security, prosperity, identity. For example, if I look at globalized group, people who are either within country, traveling back and forth, or people who have gone outside, maybe hundreds of years back. When I look at the 3 aspects of their life of security, prosperity, identity, the identity issues are much higher because they're typically prosperous, they're secure, but they want to hold on to their language, their culture, their food, wherever they go. For example, just a couple of months back, in the same building, I was giving talk to about 80 young people who had come from different parts of the world, who had linked with India in the past, would ancestors had migrated from India. And I told them that if they go back to their village today, they'll find that it's completely changed while they hold on to the things they had carried from here. For example, the kind of food they were eating here, the kind of language they were speaking. So they hold on to that. So identity becomes very important. Why I'm saying this, when I connect to my people across the world, I need to understand that what is their feeling, what do they want. And so that's why you see that we have put identity as a bigger dot here. Based on this, we have a vision statement which focuses on the 3 aspects. Technology is the service of India, ensuring the security, enhancing the prosperity, and strengthening the identity of every Indian. India has hundreds of languages. Out of that, 22 are part of our constitution. So what we try to do is to translate this particular one statement, one sentence into 22 languages. That's extremely difficult because nobody speaks all the 22 languages. One of our prime minister could speak 14 languages. So he was considered a genius. But the one very interesting thing we found was that when you try to translate from English to Indian languages, it was very difficult. The meaning would change. One of the authors who were involved with this spoke a language which is spoken in part of Maharashtra, where Bombay is situated, in Mumbai now. He did the perfect translation because he was part of the team. Then we found that from that language to other Indian languages become much easier. So we have talked about technology, Indian to Indian language translation in real time. So I am speaking in a particular Indian language and the computer automatically does speech recognition, does automatic translation, and does speech synthesis. This technology is already happening around the world. For example, in Skype, I can go and speak in English and translate to Spanish and maybe English to German. So we need to focus within India on Indian to Indian language translation, which is a much simpler task to do rather than trying to translate from Indian to English and vice versa. Okay. So we need to look at the similarity of the language groups, and that will have major impact on the education system and many other things that we have within the country. So I'm focusing on this, and government is taking it up. Now, when we prepared this document, it was for young people. People not of my age, but young people in 20s, 30s today. And we found that when we talked to top scientists and asked them that what do you want India to be in 20 years, most of them could not think beyond their own areas of research. But when we talk to young people, school-going children, college-going children, and so on, they were willing to come forward because they were not hindered with the thought process. They wanted to, say that they want teleportation to happen, or anything like that. So we captured their aspirations, their desires into this document. And you would find that the infographic is the first cover page that shows this, that if I close my eyes today and open in 2035, what is the kind of life you want to see? So that infographics, this is important. I'm saying that if I close my eyes today and open in 2035, what do we want to see? So I'm not making a statement of what is happening where. I'm just saying that if I open my eyes in 2035, this is what I'm going to see. This also makes sure that I am free from agenda of the government of the day, because the governments can change, their priorities can change. So something can happen tomorrow, something can happen day after tomorrow. We are not talking about timeline. We are talking of that at particular time we are seeing that what will have happened we are talking about. So this captures some of the aspirations, some of the desires. Then to organize all of this, we have defined 12 prerogatives. The 6 on the top that you see are individual prerogatives, which are important from each person's point of view. The 6 at the bottom are collective ones, which is not important for one individual, but as a society together. So if I look at clean air and potable water, food and nutrition security, universal care, healthcare, public hygiene, and so on. Each of these we have discussed. Similarly, we have discussed these 6 at the bottom. And I would like to point out that cultural diversity to vibrancy is a key part of our thought process. And as I mentioned that diversity is our strength, so time and again the diversity comes in this document, which is not true for many countries around the world. So each of these prerogatives we have looked at certain focused targets and certain broad targets, which are, we have spent about 1 to 1.5 pages in the document. I'm not going to go into details except pointing out a few things. One point, like I will point out in food and nutrition security, says every Indian is assured of adequate and nutritional food intake. Ensuring adequacy of food, both in terms of calorie and protein requirement, irrespective of diverse food preferences, is important. Now the point here is diverse food preferences. So I'm not saying that if you're a vegetarian, you must eat animal meat to make sure that your protein requirement is met. With countries diverse, we have people with different food preferences. So that point I wanted to make sure. So that means the technology, science and technology should deliver whatever the food preferences. Within that, we have to make sure that people get the requirements. Similarly, as I said that we have been very poor in the healthcare sector, so we have set targets in the healthcare sector which are very important. For example, our average life expectancy is right now about 68, 69 years. We have set it to 80 years. And similarly, we have put maternal mortality rate to be not more than 15 per 100,000 and under 5 mortality rate of not more than 6 per 1,000. This 6 figures right now on average of India is about 41. Whereas the Kerala one state has 6, so that one state already has achieved this. But there is one more point that I would like to point out here. For example, integration of Indian science of medicine with modern medicine. So India and many other countries have thousands of years of traditional knowledge of medicine, and we need to combine the strength of that with the strength of modern medicine. Now I would like to point out personally, because I benefited from a book which a German person wrote, Andreas Moritz. He said that from age of 6, he had a lot of health problems. He could not solve it, no doctors could solve it. From age of, when he became a teenager, he started to look at diet, nutrition and so on himself. At the age of 21, he came to India to learn India's traditional medicine, Ayurveda. And then he solved his own health problems, and then he devoted his whole life into that. He did his own research and developed his own techniques, he improved the techniques, and he did many books. He migrated from Germany to US, until about 2 to 3 years back, he promoted this for about 40 to 45 years. Age of about 65, he expired, unfortunately. I actually benefited personally from that book, because I had gallbladder stones, And normally when you have pain with the gallstone, the doctors will do surgery and remove the gallbladder. When I read his book, I learned how to remove the stones without the surgery. And so that book is by a German gentleman, Andreas Morris, actually helped not only me, and then I have promoted that to hundreds and thousands of people who have followed that. So combining Indian science of medicine or similar traditional medicine with modern medicine is very important. Our traditional medicine is focused on looking at the root cause of the problem, where the Western medicine focuses on the symptoms. So we need to combine both of these together, and this is what this particular statement means. This 24/7 energy, where India is actually, the current government has made the targets very stiff. We have, like in the renewable energy, I think from 25 gigawatt, we have jumped to 175 gigawatt targets. Out of that, 125 gigawatt to be done through solar energy. And the work is going on at tremendous speed. I think recently we launched a solar farm which was the largest in terms of capacity in the world. Maybe China is probably going to exceed that, or they've already exceeded. But the current government is focused on renewable energy, and our commitment to India's climate change is very strong, and we are part of that system. I'll come back to this point later. This is a distant habitat. Okay, let me spend a couple of minutes on the education part. We have said that to achieve 100% literacy, including operating knowledge of devices, instruments, and machines, that means that just being able to read or write is not enough. We should be able to operate devices like these. Each child must learn that. Then only we will consider him or her to be literate. That's because these devices are no longer simply communication devices. They're also learning devices. So for a child to be literate means that we must be able to do that. Similarly, we have talked about delivery of language neutral content to all the individuals at the press of a button. It's very important because India is a country of languages. Each child must be able to learn in the language of their choice. Otherwise, what happens? When you are a child and you're learning, let's say that you're learning English, that means that you start to learn the language rather than the subject. So you start learning English to the subject rather than the subject to the language. So learning in the language of their choice is very important, but what happens? We do not have content available in all the languages. So this is where technology can come in a strong way, where probably I should be able to write a book or give a lecture in a particular language. It should get automatically translated to the language of choice the children want to learn. The last point that we are making here, that the role of teachers is going to be completely different. So already changing. For example, I'm a physics student, but I work on brain. I've not taken any single course on brain. I help people with disability, and I use brain-computer interface. Many of the neuroscientists do not know these things. I know because I have the computer knowledge and I've used this knowledge, but I've not had to go to college or school for learning this or go through large number of books. I'm able to pick up information as per my need. And so the role of teacher is no longer going to be teacher who is giving knowledge. The knowledge can be acquired through many sources. The teacher's role will be of a guide, a mentor. That's the change that is happening. For example, you might be aware of flipped classroom where the education is happening in the homes. Children learn on their own. They come to classroom not to learn, but to discuss problems and do troubleshooting and so on. So that's the change that we see, and already work has started around the world. There is a safe and speedy mobility part. I'll just read out the first two statements here. It says access to public transportation within 1 kilometer from our home, irrespective of where we are in the country. We should be able to access public transportation. Like I was in the US for 5 years, the public transportation, most part of the US is very poor. If you do not have a private vehicle, you'll find it very difficult. Europe is of course different because population density is much higher and you have much better developed infrastructure. So we are saying that access to public transport within 1 kilometer, this is not for metro cities, but any part of the country. The second one that says that no place in the country should be more than 3 hours away from a district headquarters, 5 hours away from a state capital, and 8 hours away from national capital. So I should be able to reach Delhi from any part of the country within 8 hours. So similarly, the other thing that I'm not going to read out, and I'll come back to this point later on. Public safety and national security. Again, cultural diversity, vibrancy, I'll just spend a couple of points here. We said diversity in culture, languages is the key defining feature of India. So this is a very strong point that we are making, and we say that cultural diversity is a national asset and power multiplier. The second statement is very important. We would like India to be as advanced as possible technologically, but as rooted as possible culturally. So diversity of culture and so on is a very important part of our thought process. There is a transparent and effective governance, there is disaster and climate resilience, and eco-friendly conservation of natural resources. So we have actually these 12 prerogatives that we have defined for the country. But for each of these, we have made it technology capable. Each 12 of these we have made it technology capable. You'll see that there are 4 columns there. Leftmost is technology which is ready to deploy. That means technology which is available within India or globally, but it's not being used on large scale. For example, maybe south of India is using, but the rest of India is not using it. The second column is technology which needs to go from lab to field. This is where India is extremely poor in translating lab work into commercializing this on taking large scale. This is a serious concern for India. The third one is technology which needs targeted development. Now, wherever India has taken up targeted development, like I talked about space, atomic energy, missiles, and so on, we have done quite well. But this is not getting done in most of the other research areas. So we are saying there is a certain area where we need to have targeted development. The fourth one is technology and imagination. This is the area of technology that we felt that may happen in 15 years, may not happen, may take 20 years, may take 30 years, or may not happen anytime. What is very interesting to find that some of the things started to happen while we were preparing the document itself. It just started to happen within 1 or 2 years' time. So what we thought may happen in 15 years, may not happen, or may take a long time, started to happen within a couple of years. So 2 trends are very visible. One is technology is happening at a faster rate than we expect. The second is technology diffusion is also taking at a much faster rate. This also means that technology obsolescence is also extremely high. For example, I remember I used pagers for maybe not more than a few months' time. The cell phones came and the pagers were gone. So we have to be aware of this, and that's why the role of organizations like ours of doing technology foresight becomes very important. And actually, we are connected globally through an organization called Global Foresight Network, and there are other organizations we are part of that. In 2015, we hosted the meeting of Global Foresight Network. I remember a number of partners in Europe also came. Last year it was in China, and this year it will probably happen in Japan. Now, I will just take certain examples of technology imagination. Some of this might be familiar, and some you may not. So technology imagination is very important because a lot of things that as I said, that what we imagine have started to happen already. So for example, drones, all of you are familiar. We expect to see that next couple of years. It's used for emergency situations. For example, emergency supplies, medicines and so on may start to happen very quickly. And with the capability of drones of being able to carry human beings, I also see the role in difficult terrains like mountains and so on, where a person could fly over from one mountain to another mountain within maybe 10 to 15 minutes. Whereas if they take a road transport, it's extremely difficult. It will take them hours and hours to come down and go up. And of course, it's very difficult. Just last year I was traveling in the mountain. It was so, you feel so scared because you are at 10, 12,000 feet high and you never know what will happen. So maybe this will happen, but also for emergency food and medical supply is going to be very important. This particular autonomous vehicles, we thought it would take another 10 years, but it's already started to happen. Last year started to happen in many cities. So again, you see that it jumped very fast. India also, parts of India is being tried out. There's one in autonomous bus in Australia. In fact, when I was in the US in 1981, I was in Berkeley, which is very close to San Francisco. The Bay Area Rapid Transit, BART, which is called the metro network, the subway there. At that time, they had driverless metro, but people did not want to get into that. They were scared to get into a vehicle which was not being driven by human beings. So they had to put human drivers there. But today, if I look at India's situation on the road, the traffic, 90% of the problem is because of human drivers. So I expect that if we have humanless vehicles being driven, then of course it will probably be much safer. So, but this is already happening, and we expect to see more and more of this very quickly. Of course, this also leads to the concern about job loss and so on. For example, New York Taxi Drivers Association has said that for the next 50 years we should ban these. But of course, technology you cannot stop. It will come in one or other way. The nature of job is changed. What kind of job to create, we do not know. For example, within India in 1980s and 90s, a lot of concern about computers coming and taking away jobs. But what we found that it created more jobs and generated much more wealth than actually we lost. But each country may have different experiences. So similarly, when this technology is coming in, right now we are not certain what's going to happen, including technology like robotics and artificial intelligence. In fact, we just had a discussion on this 1 year back. That was 1 month back. This technology, Hyperloop, we had put in there. And again, we had thought it would take 15, 20 years. We have put a timeline here of another 10 years. But suddenly, last few months' time, it has picked up momentum like anything. In I think, in Europe, maybe Czech Republic or Slovakia, they have signed an agreement, Hyperloop 1. And they have planned out whole Europe being covered by Hyperloop. In case you're not aware, in Hyperloop, you can move at the speed of 1200 kilometers per hour, faster than the speed at which the aircraft flies. So this is evacuated tube, nearly vacuum, and you are put in a pod and transported at the speed of 1200 kilometers per hour. Putin was trying to get this in Russia in the next 6 years. Dubai is trying to do that. And one company, Hyperloop, has planned out for the whole of Europe, and that was starting from Slovakia or Czech, I don't remember which one. And India also, between Chennai and Bangalore, is being planned out, and the company already planned out many routes like Delhi, Mumbai, and so on. And Delhi, Mumbai have been covered in about 80 minutes time, as compared to normal flights, which take about 2 hours or slightly more than 2 hours. So this technology is coming in, which we thought that would not be possible in next 20, 30 years, has started to, plans are already going on. It's not even proven right now, but all over the world the plans are going on. And this is happening so fast that we were talking about a futuristic technology and plans are on the ground now. This, of course, virtual reality and augmented reality will replace the way we do education today. The textbook system will be changed by virtual reality augmented based learning. This is a tremendous opportunity for countries like India, where we need to convert documents into this form. So a lot of millions of books and other things are there. We need to convert that. It's not simply scanning these books. You have to be able to put it in the right way. For example, I have on my cell phone, I have an app which will give the anatomy of a body in augmented reality, and somebody who is studying anatomy of a body can see it in a closed way, and depending which angle you see and which layer of the body you want to see, all of that can be adjusted. And it doesn't cost anything. So instead of going to a particular, going inside, looking at a real human body or a skeleton, you actually have an app which can actually give you much better information. So a lot of information needs to be translated and converted into this. This is an opportunity for many countries, including India. This is talking about interaction with our environment, where natural interaction, just like we do with each other, with speech and so on, is starting to increase. Like my home, I have Alexa to whom I can talk. Or Google Home has come out where I could actually talk to the Google Home and it can do everything for me. For example, not only controlling the light and other things, but placing orders and reminding us of appointments and so on. So all that is happening. In fact, I had worked on this technology earlier to help people with disability who could not, for example, move, could not, for example, put on light, so then they could, through their voice, they could control light or television and things like that. But now it's become mainstream. And actually, you could start to see that you have somebody in your home that you start to communicate with, and that is an AI-based system which is controlling everything in your house. So this is going to happen more and more. This you might have, I don't know if you've seen this video of a little robotic dog, which will help you in your kitchen and your house, and it will clean your dishes, put it in the dishwasher, put it in a trash can, and so on. See a little video. This is called Mini Spot. You see a video, you'll find that this fellow is walking, and somebody has put banana peels on the floor. Slips over like human being, and then starts walking again. Essentially, it looks like so natural. So this is going to start happening more and more of this. This is of course 3D printed house. This is an example where China has printed about 10 houses in 24 hours using a single 3D printed machine. Yesterday I saw news where one very nice house was printed in 24 hours. And this is a house in Dubai. In fact, this is our organization which does technology for site. They printed that whole house building using 3D printing techniques. So we are saying that within India we start to use these technologies mainly first to provide accommodation to large number of people who do not have proper housing, and also in disaster-related situations where a lot of houses are destroyed. We want to use this technology. This is vertical farming, which again we are expecting that will take a lot of time, but at least I am aware of 3 cities in US, in Japan, in Singapore, and India. It's all starting to happen. I'm not sure about Germany, but for example, Goa, it is already somebody set up this vertical farm where actually you, just like we are moved vertically, you have multi-layer farming. There is no soil being used in this case, so either use aeroponic or hydroponic, and you have uniform production of whatever you're trying to produce. It does not use sunlight, because multi-layer you cannot use sunlight, use the artificial light, and the growth of the crop is much faster than the sunlight. And you can produce 40 to 100 times more product within the same area, land area. It's very important for countries including India, Europe and so on, because all of us are very pressed on land. US is not so much pressed on land, or Australia is not so much pressed, but Europe and India are very dense. So we need to use this technology. And second point is that it saves 90 to 95% of water. So that means I do not need to use the water. There is tremendous pressure on the water all over the world. In fact, we say that the next world war will be on the water. So there is tremendous pressure on the water. So this can save 90 to 95% of water, and other resources completely pesticide free, and of course land resources saved. And you can actually produce this very close to city consumption center. So in your home, it can be plucked from there, and within a couple of hours it can reach your home. So you get the fresh thing. Of course, the smaller versions of this can be done within the home. In fact, I have a company which has also done similar thing where a little, hydroponic device where you can grow your own vegetables and so on within your home in any season. And again, it's important from countries like Europe, which are very cold at times, where you cannot grow things, and this can help in growing this. And in fact, near Mumbai, we are trying to set up, I'm involved in a project where people are trying to set up something similar. We had put some technology there which was to capture carbon dioxide and convert it to diamond white. And we thought again it will happen maybe 20, 25 years. Now all that is starting to happen. For example, this particular is artificial leaf which uses renewable energy, captures carbon dioxide and converts to fuel. And similarly, the conversion to diamond white is also starting to happen, where you capture carbon and press at higher temperature pressure and convert it to diamond white, and thereby starting to solve the problem of carbon dioxide, carbon in the atmosphere and the climate change. These forests of these are going to be 1,000 times more efficient than natural forest. A natural forest takes 20, 30 years to develop. But these can be made in factory and placed wherever you are. For example, India has committed as part of our climate change commitment that will create additional 2 to 3 billion tons of carbon sink per year by additional forest area. Now, of course, this means that you need to acquire additional land, but where is the land? Because there is tremendous pressure, there is always a conflict between producing food versus leaving land for forest. So we are looking at the possibility of these artificial forests. First, they can be grown in areas which is barren, which we could not produce, we do not have normal vegetation. Second is that there are certain areas of forest which need to be replaced. Instead of replacing this natural forest, one could actually replace them with these artificial forests. And they are 1,000 times more efficient in capturing carbon. So these technologies are already coming in. China, for example, you see certain parks, they're already trying to put these devices there. Right now, it may not be economical, but as we know that technology when it starts, it's not economical, but as we put it on mass scale, it starts to become much more economical. This, of course, something my favorite area, where artificial intelligence and robotics are starting to move towards a situation where we might see robots becoming self-aware. This is a movie scene from Ex Machina. There are many movies where actually this lady robot starts to develop feelings. And this can be tremendous from human species point of view. I gave a talk 1 month back, and therefore yesterday also gave a talk on future of human species, where we would need to either learn to live with robots, or they will destroy us, or we'll have to leave this planet and go somewhere else. So, not spend more time on this because I'll get carried away. But just to give an example, this is from one of the Indian movies, where this gentleman has landed from some other planet and he doesn't know any language. Then he holds the hand of this girl for 6 hours and transfers the language knowledge from her brain to his brain. And of course, this is something that looks like a joke, but actually, you see that this gentleman, who is a famous person, Nicholas Negroponte, was director of MIT's Media Lab. He has predicted that in coming years we'll be able to pop a pill and learn the language. So you want to learn a new language. This is US Department of Defense is working on this because their armed forces going to different parts of the world. They do not know the language. So they're trying to see that can I pop a pill and deposit language information in my brain. Let me leave out this one so that I'll get into this thing. Okay, this I just mentioned, the human memory prosthetic. That means many of us have poor memory like myself, and we should be able to add something here and enhance our memory. And also knowledge, just like I want to have a physics exam tomorrow, I can put a physics pen drive, or a chemistry, I put another pen drive, and I learn the language. But actually, learn the knowledge. But actually it's happening, for example, in an experiment, an experienced pilot's brainwaves were captured, and that was put into the brain of a new pilot is learning, and it was found that you can train the pilot much faster. So instead of taking 1 year, maybe the new pilot trains in 3 months. This means that I'm able to transfer the experience of experienced pilot into the new one, and this kind of tremendous impact on the way we do the skilling and so on, and also the education system. Let me leave out these. Well, okay, this picture I'd like to show. For example, this gentleman is a real person who lost his hand. Instead of having a prosthetic hand, what he has is a tattooing machine. So that means we're starting to accept machine as part of our body. So body and machine are going to combine, and brain and computer are going to combine. This is what we are seeing in the future. For example, this fellow has a drone machine as part of his body. This gentleman is carrying exoskeleton, carrying very heavy weight. Very important, like in India we have coolies carrying heavy weight in railway platforms and so on. This can help you 8 hours, the battery will remain charged, and you can carry very heavy weight without any pressure on the body. Now, of course, for soldiers who are very difficult terrain, they need to carry this kind of very helpful as well. This is already developed, is being used. This is talking about human being becoming multi-planetary species that we see, and according to one estimate by NASA, that between asteroid belt with Mars and Jupiter, there's so much of mineral wealth that if I divide all that among all the people on the Earth, it will be $100 billion per person on the Earth. Okay, that's the amount of thing. In fact, NASA is sending a mission to an asteroid, a space rock actually, whose worth is 10,000 quadrillion dollars. 10,000 quadrillion, not billion, 10,000 quadrillion. So it's the amount of wealth that has happened. This means that this particular year, 2017, is very important. 2016, one of the companies, US called Moon Express, was given the permission to go to Moon, the first private company to go outside space to explore the mineral wealth on the Moon. In fact, I was working on a similar project myself. And 2017, they expect to launch. One Indian company is also expecting to put a rover on the Moon. These are private companies. This is specifically to explore the mineral wealth that is available on the Moon. Similarly, it's happening Mars and asteroid belt. So exploration of outer space is starting to happen in a very strong way, and this year is very important for that point of view. So I was talking about technology and imagination and things which are happening much faster than you expect. Within the document, we have a chapter which talks about essential prerequisites. Out of that, the transversal technologies, we have talked about 3 areas of transversal technology which affect all sectors: materials, manufacturing, and information and communication technology. Then we have talked about infrastructure research and fundamental research, because sometimes when we talk about technology, we forget that fundamental research is equally important. And this kind of discussion goes on in countries like India, where we have limited resources. We should divide that, whether you spend more money on fundamental research, on applied research, and technology development and so on. So we say that fundamental research is equally important. We should not dilute that, but we must have emphasis on other aspects as well. So this is discussed in that. I'll come back to these three technologies later on as well. Then we have talked about India's capabilities and constraints, where we are strong, where we are weak, because each country has to work within its strengths and its weaknesses. I'm not going to spend any time on this. And then we have identified 10 grand challenges that country must face. Now, I'd just like to point out the first one, grand challenge 1, which talks about guaranteeing nutritional security and eliminating female and child anemia. I don't know if you are aware, but India faces a tremendous problem of anemia, where 60 to 80% women in the country are anemic, and 1/3 to 1/4 children are anemic. It's not that we are not aware. So last 3, 4, 5 decades we have been working on this, spending a lot of government money on trying to improve the situation. But unfortunately, we have not been able to make much change. We don't really understand why it is happening. Of course, there are multiple factors, not one single factor. But that's why I put this as grand challenge 1 for the country, because it affects nearly 600 million people across the country, much larger than many countries in the Europe, double the size of US, for example. Now, this, with Indian Council of Medical Research, Ministry of Women and Child Development, Ministry of Family and Health and Family Welfare, we have launched task forces, we have set up task forces, first to understand why all the effort in this direction is failing, and then to take appropriate action on that. So this is the grand challenge. Similarly, we identified 9 other grand challenges, and some of these government has already taken action. For example, number 7, taking the railway to some of the far-off places, government has already announced this and working on it. Now, so we've set a vision for the country, and then to achieve that vision, we are preparing technology roadmaps in 12 sectors. And this covers nearly all the sectors of importance, starting from education, medical science and healthcare, food and agriculture, and so on. Each of these, at the end of this, there's a little booklet that we have put there, which is only 1 page summary of that. But actually, each of these is a separate document of 150 to 250 pages. So, for example, education, medical science, healthcare, we have launched. Out of these 12, 5 we have launched last year, 2016. We expect to launch the rest of them, the remaining 7 ones, within this year and early part of next year. So medical science and healthcare has been launched already. Food and agriculture, we are working on it. Water, we are working on it. Energy, nearly done. Just today morning, the final draft is with the chairman of the committee. In fact, we had a same delegation, and they are very much interested in participating in the energy part, and so they want to look very closely as to what we are doing in the energy sector. Environment is still, we are working on this. Habitat is nearly done. We should launch it in the next couple of months. Transportation we launched in December. Infrastructure we should be able to launch in next 3 to 4 months time. Manufacturing we launched last September. Manufacturing, of course, a lot of things are happening that I must mention here, that you are aware that we are moving away toward digital manufacturing. And this is a change that will reverse the trend that happened in industrial revolution in Europe. So around 1750 and so on, industrial revolution taking place from distributed manufacturing way to centralized manufacturing. And this meant that the raw material had to be brought in large numbers from around the world, and the market had to develop for the finished goods. Now, with the technology like 3D printing or additive manufacturing and other technology, digital manufacturing, the manufacturing is going to be distributed to be customized. So this may reverse the trend of the centralized factories, and countries like India and China may start to participate in much bigger way in this process. This is the manufacturing sector document. There are 8 sectors we have covered in this. The material sector, this was the first document we launched. A lot of wonderful work is going in materials. For example, in case you are not aware, just mentioned one of them, graphene. Graphene is a 2-dimensional carbon material, and some of you might be cat lovers. If you want to hold a cat of 3 to 4 kg weight in a graphene sheet, the weight of the graphene sheet will be equivalent to whisker of a cat. That means a few milligrams of the weight of graphene sheet can hold a cat of 3 to 4 kg. It's super strong, it's conducting, is transparent. Now this is the first one, but there are numbers of them that now have been done. For example, something called I'm forgetting the name, from out of boron, out of silicon, and so on. So just like carbon, number of things are happening there. So a lot of wonderful materials coming, wonder materials coming in. This can change completely the way manufacturing is being done, and many things we are doing today. So this is a wonderful area of work that is going on, and as I said, that completely things are likely to change. And of course, information communication technology, this also we have launched. And as we are aware that sometimes we don't even realize, but part of our brain has already moved into this. For example, we don't remember telephone numbers of even close ones today because it's all stored here. Earlier, when we used to have the old systems where we used to dial, then we remember those numbers because we used to work hard to dial those numbers. But today, it has gone into this. So part of our brain has already moved into this. And so brain-computer interface has already happened in that sense. So this is the 12th one. So our 5-year release, as I said, all of these documents are available on our website, whichever has been launched. Then we have a chapter which talks about call to action, who should be doing what on the basis of this document. Our own organization's experience when we launched Technology Vision 20 years back was that we launched various missions to actually achieve some of this where we played a primary role. But this time we do not want to do that. We do not want to take things in our hand, but rather we will work with various organizations, including government organizations, industry, academia, and so on. So whoever is a stakeholder for that particular field, we will work with them, and they will be the front. For example, when we talk about grants and one related to eliminating anemia, we are working in the Council of Medical Research and other ministries. So this time our task is to actually work with other organizations, and our role is going to be a catalyst. And while we are doing this, we also will keep in mind that India has made commitment to climate change. India has made commitment to sustainable development goals. So these three are our own technology vision document for the country, along with climate commitment and sustainable development. All three of these are part of our thought process. It's not that we prepare one action plan for one and other action plan for others. We are making integrated plan. We're covering all of this together. And that's why my organization is playing a very important role in each of these as well. Let me leave out these ones, but basically my organization keeps track of technology happening around the globe on a regular basis, and we do a steep analysis. That means the impact of technology. The technology is global, its impact on each country, each area is local. So we look at social, technological, environmental, economic, and political impact. We share some of this through our newsletters. And what we do actually in this case is that we have a Facebook page where we do a crowdsourcing. We share technology news around the globe. It's also linked to our Twitter account, which goes into Twitter database. And then some of this, the important ones, we pick up. So there is no cost system we have developed which uses social media as a good way to keep track of technological changes that are happening. I'll mention a couple of areas to point out issues that India faces. For example, about 3.5 years back, we were asked by government to look into 4 sectors and try to boost export. One was electronic goods. ESDM is electronic goods sector actually. Second was Guargam. Third was technical textile, and fourth was essential. I'm going to explain the first 2 of these and what we see here. Let me check the Guargam actually. This is a particular bean, a flat bean kind of thing. So in English it's called cluster bean, but popularly it is called guar beans around the globe. It's powder. You take out the seeds, make the powder out of that called Guargam. The Guargam, India produces, exports about 80% of the Guargam in the world, 15% Pakistan, the rest of the world only 5%. We were importing this to the tune of rupees 3,000 crores till about 2011. It jumped 7 to 8 times to about 23,000 crores rupees. In a year, it jumped 7 to 8 times. The reason was that the Guargam was being used in oil and gas industry, and the shale gas production in US through hydrofracturing uses this. So first it was in R&D stage, and then in 2012, the production started to ramp up in US, and then suddenly demand for this particular product shot up, which we were not aware. We were not expecting this, nobody saw this. Suddenly the price is down by 10 times when the huge demand came in, and since India is producing 80% of the global requirement, obviously there's a lot of pressure on Indian producers. Of course, a lot of exporters made a lot of money out of this. Next year, the prices dropped down because there was overcapacity built. And second thing happened, as the shale gas production started to ramp up, oil prices to come down. When the oil prices came down, the shale gas production started to be, lose its charm. So that started production. So all kind of things happen up and down. So the government asked us to look into the sector and see what we can do to enhance the export. What we found very interesting was that we found that we send out the powder by mechanical processing, but all the chemical processing to enhance this capability of this happens outside India. So other countries buy from us, do the chemical processing to be used in shale gas production, and then the price goes up by 5 to 10 times. So suppose I am selling at 100 rupees a kg, and other countries buys that from us and sells 1,000 rupees kg after processing, so they gain much more money than we do. So that means the value addition part, after we have done the agriculture part and the first level of mechanical processing is not being done in the country. And so we identified these issues. We did patent analysis. I have a patent cell actually through which we file patents free of cost for all academic organizations and government R&D institutes. We did patent analysis, and this particular slide actually shows the story of India's R&D. It shows that while 80% of guar gum we export, but if I look at nearly 12,000 patents of guar gum globally, out of that India's contribution is less than 1%. So 80% we are producing raw material, but it comes to value addition, and if I link patents to R&D, it means that we are not putting our effort on the R&D on the things in which we are strong. And so I've taken a major initiative in this area, and I found that actually there is tremendous potential just on this particular one crop, guar gum. It grows in areas like Rajasthan in India, which is very rain deficit. It's a hardy crop, and it's actually made for cattle feed. But I found that I have a list of more than 400 such materials where India is a major producer, but we don't do value addition. And right now, my organization is working on 170 such raw materials. We're doing patent analysis, we're doing commercial analysis, understand that which ones we should focus, and trying to bring technology or develop technology so that we can do value addition right at the place where the thing is being produced. So, for example, a farmer is producing a particular crop, they should be able to add value to that as quickly as possible. This also improves the earning of farmers as well as enhance the capability of the country. This electronic goods sector, I don't want to speak much on this except saying that India is likely to import in the business as usual scenario about $400 billion of electronic goods. This will become number one import item, exceeding things like oil, which we import maximum. And of course, oil prices have gone down, so this can happen even faster. What we found that India will be importing $400 billion by 2020, but our export will be only going up to $70 to $80 billion. That means there will be a gap of more than $300 billion of import versus export. We're asked to look into this and see how we can enhance the export. One point that is my personal opinion right now is very interesting, but I would like to share with you. It's a deep cultural and social bias against working with hand. It's a mindset issue where when you go to Germany, let's say an Indian goes to Germany or US or some other parts of the world, they work with hand. They would like to clean their dishes, do everything with hand, because they can't afford to have help. But when they come back to India, they have somebody else to do the task. So there is a gap that we create within India between hand and mind. So this translates to our education system where we do not like to work with hand in the labs. We do not like to work with electronic goods, for example, in colleges. Germany is wonderful in Germany because your education system is very strong, like mechanical systems are very excellent within Germany. And we have to learn from that. And this leads to effect that you can only do so much of innovation when on the software. You need to connect to hardware and embedded system. And our engineering students they do not want to go into manufacturing sector. They all want to go into IT sector. Even they will do mechanical engineering and not go to shop floor. They think it's below their dignity. So this dignity of labor is very important. And personally, I have launched a social mission, which I call 1-in-1, where I'm saying that we must encourage our children to work 1 hour in 1 week with hand. And this is a mindset issue which you don't face, but we face, and so on. From my organization, I'm trying to take advantage of small industries, SME sector, or in India we call it MSME, micro, small and medium enterprises, to try to get the students to go into that sector and work with them and look at real problems that industry faces and work in this. And of course, as part of this, we are also trying to have set up innovation labs within the country, because I find that students, I was professor for 11 years, I found that students would like to work on software projects because that they can do within their laptop, internet, and so on. But when it comes to hardware, they have to get a start. So we're trying to have innovation labs set up in the country across the various engineering institutes and so on, so that students can do the hardware-based project as quickly like they do with software. It's based on MIT's Fab Lab concept along with 3D printers. Fortunately, Prime Minister announced this scheme, and in 500 schools it is already being set up. This is already being done in the schools. 250 schools were identified. The government is giving money to set up such facilities. This will hopefully enhance our hardware manufacturing capability and so on. And programs like Make in India and so on will be very much useful from their point of view. Coming towards the end of the talk, we are on social media, as mentioned, Twitter, we are on Facebook, and we share global technology news, and we are followed from around the world. We bring out interesting newsletters. For example, let's talk about Guardian that I talked. This is an event I hosted 2 years back on race between mind and machine, how computers and brain are racing with each other. And the last one is an interesting one which talks about disabling disability, how technology would disable disability. I would like to make a statement that the day we are willing to give up our biological limbs for bionic limbs, the day we are willing to give up our biological limbs for bionic limbs is the day disability would have been disabled. Suppose I am willing to say that, okay, chop off my hand and give me a bionic hand, is the day losing hand will have no meaning. There is a gentleman in the US who lost both his legs in a snow avalanche. He has now 5 pairs of bionic legs. So he wants to do rock climbing, he uses one. He wants to do swimming, he uses another one. It's just like many of ladies have multiple pairs of shoes that you wear depending on dress and occasion. So similarly, this gentleman has multiple pairs of legs which he can use as per his desire. So, for that gentleman, being able to use a more efficient leg is very useful. So tomorrow, the day I'm willing to give up my biological limbs or bionic limbs, so their disability would have been disabled. So that is what we are discussing this one. And so this is the last slide. It says that technology is happening at a much faster rate, as I mentioned. That means technology foresight is very important. And innovation backed by intellectual property right is going to be critical for India to move ahead in knowledge-led society of, sorry, there's a spelling mistake, that society of 21st century. And document like Technology Vision 2035 can serve to set the direction of young mind. And electronic goods sector, I've talked about a broader set of issues, which is cultural and social, which we need to focus in the country. So I'll stop at this particular point. If there are any comments or questions, then I would like to. Thank you. Any comments, questions? Yes.
Thank you for that great, very diverse insight. It sounds just wonderful, but also like a huge challenge for the country. And I was wondering what the government, like what different measures the government is undertaking to create at least a framework to make that vision come true.
So, whenever we prepare such documents, whether we do it in India or outside India, in another place, so always the big challenge. How do you translate this vision into action? So when we prepared the earlier document, Technology Vision 2020, 1996, about 20 years back, at that time we found it very difficult to get other agencies who should be doing the task, to get them to follow this. Many times it also happened that they picked up certain things and then they made their own document without referring to our document. So at that time, my organization felt that we must take action in our own hand. But one small organization cannot change the country. So that's why this time I mentioned that our strategy is actually to work with various stakeholders across the country, whether it's central government, with the state government, and so on. And so our role is going to be a catalyst. So with the central government, various one organization which was Planning Commission, their name has been changed to now NITI Aayog. It's more like not a planning body anymore, it's a policy body. And they have also become like think tank. So earlier they used to be involved with allocating financial resources across the country in various sectors, including to state governments and so on. So their tasks are slightly different. But now we are working very closely, and they report to Prime Minister, actually, their chairman is Prime Minister himself. So we are working very closely, that is helping. Based on this document, they are also developing a science and technology vision for the country, which is they are taking 90% of the material from here. So that will help us because being under Prime Minister, they have more reach out to various other organizations. So this is one thing that is happening. Second, we are working with different ministries and so on within the, for example, manufacturing. We are working with Department of Heavy Industries on some areas of their interest. So with different ministries, we are working on different aspects. Similarly, the state governments we are working. So for example, at least 3-4 state governments, one state, they have taken this vision and they have planned out their own action plans. Similarly, we are trying to work with other state governments to develop their action plans. So vision is not going to be very different from what it is. But action plans will be different for each state government based on their resources and their status. For example, I said that one of the states like Kerala in South, the infant mortality rate is already matching with what we have visualized. So they don't need to work on that aspect. Then similar to industry, we are starting to work with that because industry is going to play a major role, and of course the academia and the researchers that's going to play. So our task right now, we are seeing a task of being catalyst, and slowly we're trying to take this, but it's a mammoth task, as you realize, and hopefully Prime Minister has also been talking about it wherever he gets an opportunity, and other people are also talking about it. So as more and more people look at it, it will be easier for us. But one thing you would notice is that this is a document that is made that you feel good when you hold this in hand. Otherwise, our typical government document that we prepare within this country at least, it's so boring that you would not want to hold it in your hand. You would take it and put it somewhere. So I made sure that we make it attractive. We put it in a way that it's you feel like reading it. So we had a social scientist who was controlling every single word that was being typed. He was sitting on the computer. He's right now vice chancellor of the university. So that means the language itself is written much better than a scientist or technologist would write. So that was another important point. For example, one of the infographics which talks about India's progress in the last 20 years was a 20-page write-up. We reduced this to one infographic which gives a much clearer picture of what India has progressed. And so we've done a number of steps while preparing the document. All this document is available online, so this is easily accessible. You don't have to buy these documents. Of course, and we are of course giving it out free to wherever we get a chance. But I'm also planning to actually make the document available online for purchase at a low cost so that maybe people can access that. So one is to make the document accessible, work with different stakeholders, and hopefully we'll reach out to things. Fortunately, the current government is very active, and so they have taken this seriously. I remember when the current government started functioning in May of 2014. In June, we got a request for a copy of this document. That time we were not ready with the document. We had a draft version. We gave it to Prime Minister's office in the draft version itself. So they were serious from day one. And then Prime Minister himself released and wrote a forward also in this. And whenever he gets chance. So being recognized at the Prime Minister's level is very important because then others follow this. So a number of things are happening which are good sign. But again, as you realize that it's a mammoth task. And hopefully you wish us luck that we achieve 100%. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ranjan. My question is linked to the one Valentina Bushman has said, and thank you for this truly fascinating presentation you made, an inspiring presentation. And if I understand correctly, your institution tries to create benefits from technological progress for the Indian society of the future. So of course, all these different technological possibilities which will be, which have been achieved or which will be achieved, they are closely linked to political, social questions, to ethical questions. Do you include in your institution, apart from people who work on the technological side, people who work on the ethical questions linked to it? Because I mean, I guess some of the developments would not be controversial. Others might be very controversial in an ethical way, or maybe touching upon quality of life. I mean, probably you are aware that Germans have a quite romantic perception of nature, of social development. So, for example, artificial forests, vertical agriculture would be something which would be probably very controversial debate in Germany. How do you include that in your? Do you include that within your institution, or do you show the possibilities you have, and then you leave it out to the social debate to define whether you want to make that step for India or not?
It's a very, very important question, actually. Earlier, we did not visualize the need for this. My organization has only scientists and technologists. As I mentioned, when preparing this document, we had a social scientist sitting, writing every single word. And we involved a large number of people with diverse thought processes. And so this time, we are being very careful about the issues that you are raising. I will just give you an example. Just on 10th February, we have Foundation Day. The issue that we discussed this time, and we brought a lot of people from around the different diverse fields, was discussing about impact of exponential technologies on future of human species. So, for example, artificial intelligence, robotics, they're coming the way they're coming, they will impact in many ways, including ways that we don't imagine. Like European Union is discussing whether we should give human rights to robots, electronic personhood. So we started discussing similar issues, whether ethical angles, the economic angle, the social angle, and so on. In fact, Dr. also gave a talk on this. And we brought, in fact, a lawyer, a Supreme Court lawyer who is a human rights activist, talk about rights being given to robots. I showed a film there. I showed a movie, not movie, it's animation actually, where a lady robot is being assembled. And the person who is assembling her goes through all the checks. She can speak 300 languages, she can do all kinds of things. And then he asks her to go and stand in line with other robots that have been manufactured. At that time, she says that, what's going to happen to me? Am I merchandise? So, the gentleman who was assembling her said, yes, you are a very expensive one. This he said, but I thought I'm alive and so on. So then this gentleman gets a little upset. He said, no, you're not supposed to think. You are defective piece. So I'm going to destroy you. So then they start to tear her apart. That time she started to cry and said that, no, I want to live. And I'll do whatever you say. That particular moment when you see that thing, just like human, as parents we can give birth to a child, but we cannot take their life away. So are we right? Can we, if we create a robot which is self-aware, can we take their life away? So these issues we discussed there. This was more to, of course, create awareness about such issues, but also our regular analysis are doing this deep analysis where social, technological, political, ethical, all the angles are coming into that. That analysis we are doing. And we are taking a larger group in that. Within our organization right now, we have not hired any people directly, but we take on project basis. There's the issue with how many jobs can you have within our organization. We can't, jobs are frozen right now. So we can't hire new people on a long-term basis. We take them on a short-term basis, where we have people coming from like the institute in Mumbai, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. We hire people from them and so on. So we are aware of this issue. Other organizations initially when it was built had not taken, but now last 2, 3, 4 years we have. So you ask.
Thank you again for your amazing vision that you created, and I think it's very ambitious. And you talked about the partners and the stakeholders within India that you are involving in that strategy. And do you also involve partners without India? And what role could Germany possibly play, like, as a country, but also German companies? Maybe you talked about manufacturing and so on.
Yeah.
Which sectors do you think Germany or German companies could be
Yeah, so actually, it's a very important point. You see that the various prerogatives we have made, the 12 prerogatives which have been very, very technology table. The technology to the left of that was technology which is ready to deploy. That is the technology which is either globally available or available in the country, but not used on a large scale. This is one which is directly ready for technology collaboration with various international companies, government bodies, and so on. And so I'm sure that Germany can play a very important role in those. So we have identified already. In addition, if I look at the manufacturing document, we have got into more details on that. So both these documents one can look at that and we can sit down together if necessary to identify which are the possible areas of joint collaboration where Germany can play an important role, where you have already advanced thing. And I'm sure there will be hundreds of such areas where Germany can play a major role. Like with Russia, we have been discussing energy sector. And so similarly, there will be such things. So we have already identified that, and I think we just need to now sit together and see that which ones are of common interest and where you can play a role.
Yes, please. Well, my question is actually very closely linked to Kai Baldo's. There's a German sociologist called Max Weber who was working at the beginning of the 20th century, and he argued that there was a very close link between the culture and religion of society and its attitude towards innovation, technology, commerce. So, for instance, he said that there was a very close link between Protestantism and free market entrepreneurship. And we've already learned quite a lot about Indians' very rich spiritual culture and tradition. And so I was wondering whether there was a specific Indian attitude towards technology, particularly when it comes to questions like merging human beings with machines. I'm sure that there will be huge benefits from such technologies, but of course these issues pose also very important and interesting philosophical questions. And so I was just wondering whether, for instance, Hindu philosophy has a particular approach towards technology.
Okay, let me take the last point first, about merging of human beings with robots and so on. Right now, I'm not in a position to answer that, whether our philosophy has talked about such aspects. Maybe this was never visualized. But I'll give you some examples of how such roles. For example, India always liked sharing things. So things like patent and so on was not part of our thought processes. It happened when industrial revolution was taking place and there was global market and the patents started to be a way thing. So even in my thought process, for example, when I was a professor or a scientist, anytime I would do something interesting, the first thing I would come is to share with the next person whom I could meet, or when giving lecture to my students, I would share that. So our mindset was always that we want to share with people. We saw, Indian philosophy saw world as a family. There's a famous saying which says that the whole world is a family. So the sharing of the family members was considered as part of our thought process. Now the current system that has developed where restriction on various things based on your and commercialize that has become very important. India has lost in that process. And so this has been, you can see there's a cultural trend. The second point I mentioned was working with hands has been another issue where we have been very poor, where we give more preference to working with brain. And that has led to areas of technological things and today's world where even our students don't like to work with hands. So a person like, I've seen German engineers come and they would do everything, whether it's soldering something or anything that is needed, they will do. If you take an Indian engineer, they want second or third person who would do those tasks which they consider as the low-level tasks. So these have been part of social and cultural program, and I highlighted some of that, due to which we are actually getting affected in electronic goods sector, where we are wonderfully software because working on computer is still considered a good job, but working in factory is not considered a good job. And so these are social cultural issues that are of course affecting India, and I'm trying to highlight some of this, but as you know, social cultural issues do not change overnight. It needs decades of process to change them. And hopefully, our Prime Minister is very much aware of these things, so he's also pointing out these issues, but it will take time to change, but hopefully we'll do that.
Next question, please.
What's up?
I was really impressed with this focus of what can we do for Indians and not for Indians. I think that's like the right way to go, but what I was imagining is a challenge is how do you make people aware of that? If you want this document to sort of be owned by the Indians, how do you tell them about it, how do you communicate about it, especially because technology is an area that's not really accessible for everybody.
Right. So we just look at one part of your statement, that how do I communicate this to Indians at large? It's a very difficult process. We're not a small country. The second thing that has happened is that today we have multiple channels of communication. So we have print media, we have electronic media, we have social media, we have internet, and then of course we have things like this. And so when I joined 2013 and this document has started to be developed, that time only I made this point that we must make sure that my document goes through all the channels of communication. For example, if I, like PDF document we have here, put it on the internet, that's not going to make much difference. It will make difference to some people who would look at it. But if I put it on Facebook, for example, this PDF document, nobody will look at it. I need to break this into smaller pieces and keep bombarding. I've not still been able to do it. But it's part of my planning process that how do I reach out loud? In fact, what you're seeing today, I'm trying to see where I'm recording this talk, along with my video, so that I can put it on YouTube and share with other people. So they could actually listen to it, despite they're not here, they could still access the thing as if they were present here. So similarly using Twitter and so on. So this is of course to a group which is accessing these. Of course, India has large numbers of people. But there's a lot of people who don't even read these. They're not literate. But then they don't need to necessarily be aware of this. It's this people who are going to work for that. It's the government policy makers, the technologists, the academic people, the industry and so on, the state governments. Each of these sectors we are trying to penetrate, but it's a huge task, I must admit that. And we have not even touched 10% of what is needed on that. But hopefully we'll take a couple of years. It will take time, but hopefully we'll do that.
Next question, please. Yes, Felix.
As you already mentioned the stakeholders, could you just try to describe India's technology landscape a bit more in detail? Who's doing fundamental research? What's the role of private enterprises, of state-funded institutions?
So we have a number of departments. If you look at central government level, for example, my department, nodal ministry, I'm part of the Ministry of Science and Technology, and we have Department of Science and Technology there. Originally, it was just one department, Department of Science and Technology. Then it is now there are 4 departments there. One is the Department of Biotechnology, which is separated out. The Department of Earth Sciences is separated out. And then the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research. Okay. If you look at the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, that was to actually take scientific work and connect to industry. They have probably nearly 40 labs. It's called under CSIR umbrella, there is Central Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, CSIR. And but what has been found is that, and Department of Science and Technology itself supports fundamental research. So there are more than 20 research institutes within Department of Science and Technology. And similarly, Earth Sciences is something on biotechnology. But what has been seen is that we are not really stuck to our mandate. So there may be DST organizations which, in addition to doing fundamental research, are also doing applied research. The CSIR, which was to more focus on industry relevant research, may also be doing fundamental research. But now government is concerned about this aspect, and they are going back and saying that look at your core mandate and try to do this. There is a review of all the autonomous bodies going on within the country, and some kind of alignments is happening from the top, that if certain organizations have developed in a way, do they need to be shifted away from one department to another department? Do they need to merge? Do they need to be closed? So that kind of thinking is going on, which has not happened for last long time. But we are yet to see results. For example, Council of Scientific Research and CSIR, the committee set up to look into these things. So this segregation was thought at early stage a structure was made, but it's not been strictly followed. Now we're re-looking at all of this. The same thing is there at state government levels and so on. And then, of course, you have Ministry of Renewable Energy. They have their own setups as well. But Ministry of Science and Technology is the one that has the major mandate for all of this. Any other questions?
Any other questions? Yes,
I was wondering because there are many very ambitious projects, which is very impressive, like all the improvements in the education and health sector, harvesting minerals of the saturated wells, but also especially all the infrastructure projects. Where is all the money coming from for that?
Not my concern, Prime Minister's concern. But I will just give an example. The climate change commitment that India has made. I was there in Paris when the COP21 took place. I was in Marrakesh, COP22 took place. We were not really having a role in climate change related things. For that, maybe 3 years back, we had no role. And suddenly, we realized that technology plays a very important role in all of this, and we were kind of roped in. And our role has been enhancing from every day now. What we're finding is that, if I look at climate change commitment that India has made, many technologies are required for that. Some of that India may have, and some of that we may need to use outside India help. The question we are being asked, so what is first identify the technology we need, identify the sources from where we can get, and tell us how much money will be needed. Identify the technology needs that we have nearly done. Identifying sources is also not so difficult. When it comes to putting finances to that, it's very difficult. Because it's not like I can go to website and say that, okay, this is the product, this is the cost. It would depend on negotiation with the individual countries or the companies, industries, and depending on the level of negotiations, the prices can change drastically. So this is a very weak point that we are facing, but we are being asked to do this. We are trying to take help of some other organizations, but you can understand it's very difficult to put cost on this. So what is going to happen, of course, is that at the Prime Minister level, when they have to decide the priorities, based on the resources available to them, they would say, okay, this is my higher priority, let me put more money on this, this is a lower priority. So when it comes to making decisions on the priority, and that says the Prime Minister and his office is going to decide most of the thing, because of course resources are going to be limited, but of course there are very innovative ways of also generating finances. I'm not an expert of that, so I'd not like to talk about it, but as I said that, I will skip the question by saying that let Prime Minister handle this. But we are finding it very difficult in terms of resources as well as things. But that's also technology plays a role. In fact, before today I gave a talk where I talked about 6 Ds, starting from digitization to democratization. And what we find is that when something gets digitized, it gets democratized. For example, about 20 years back, when I used to move around, I used to have one camera in my hand, and probably nobody around would have a camera in hand. Today, if I ask somebody to take pictures, everybody will have 1 or 2 things coming out. So it's technology has become democratized because this whole thing has been digitized. So as technology is moving, it's also become cheaper to do certain tasks. So we are hoping that the digital technology that is coming up will also make it cheaper to do the same thing. Just to give an example, we used to have these wired telephone lines. To reach out to a remote, I came back from US in 1986. I did not have